What I got for you today is a best of 5 series between two of my personal favorite players. It's going to be a Zerg vs Terran, and game number 1 is on Sequencer LE. Spawning in the bottom left corner, playing with the pink drones, we have none other than Scarlett. And actually, she is sending out a drone awfully early on into this game to the other side of the map already. And actually, likewise, for her opponent, we see the exact same thing happening because 2 SCVs are already being sent across the map. I think we are in for a treat. Of course, her opponent is going to be none other than SpeCial or Major. You can sort of like choose whichever nickname you prefer for him. He goes by about 16 different ones, but if I'm not mistaken, we are in for a little bit of a treat here because already in game number 1 of this series, right? So keep in mind, this one video is not just going to be one game. It's going to be a bunch of different matches. We are going to start off indeed with a proxy hatchery versus a bunch of proxy barracks. Now I wonder how much SpeCial is going to be committing to this. Of course, Scarlett is going to plan on closing out this game really early on. The fact of the matter is that when you build a hatchery on the other side of the map, you really don't have, very many ways of following this up. She's going to be able to get a gas geyser going here, and very shortly she'll probably get a spawning pool as well. There we do indeed see that drone being rallied, but it really all comes down to the amount of barracks that go down right now as well for SpeCial. He needs to make sure that he, finishes up that wall here at the top of that ramp as early as he possibly can, because he's gonna be having a whole lot of units, be it Zerglings or be it Roaches, at his front door, in just a minute or two from now. I think this may very well just be a little bit of pressure, to be honest, by SpeCial. I mean, I assumed, by judging that gas geyser right here, right, that it was gonna be a push with Reapers, but well, I mean, now that we see that SpeCial is already building a bunker here on top of the ramp as well, he has indeed realized that there is not going to be a hatchery down for his opponent. So that does mean that he is going to have to play this very, very careful as well. I mean, he knows that if the base is not, going down right here in the natural position, it's going to be elsewhere on the map. And shortly he'll be able to figure out that this may very well also not be a one base all-in from his opponent, and that something else is going to be, happening on the other side of the map. Now, the first spine crawler will go down. That does indicate to him that it's not going to be a Roach Ravager all-in. Nice little bit of micro there, though, trying to get this around on that oh my god, that SCV running awfully low, but not quite getting the work done just yet. Now, Roach Warren, of course, already halfway done, but I think these Marines, I mean, if they keep going like this, they'll be able to force the cancel on that spine crawler, and there indeed we do see that cancel happening. A couple of Zerglings are now also being produced, but a whole lot of workers are already falling. I mean, this is some beautiful micro here by SpeCial, backing up towards that bunker. One of the SCVs does end up falling, but he's going to be able to continue onwards with this pressure for a little while longer. And a larva was indeed saved up there. We do indeed see that there's going to be, gotta be very careful on that queen. That queen is running low, but we do indeed see a couple of roaches already being added on. One of the hero drones does indeed pick up another Marine, and the second one does end up falling right there as well. But all things considered, this is most definitely looking pretty solid here for our blue Terran player. I mean, sure, a couple of depots are being killed, and maybe an SCV or two will end up going down here in the main base as well. But I think that SpeCial's micro is going to be a little bit too good for that. Nice control right there, though, committing to that aggression. A Roach trying to run to its death as well. A little bit sloppy right there by Scarlett. All things considered, though, it will be able to get morphed into a Ravager here soon enough. Of course, every single corrosive bio at this point in the game does count. Now, we do see a Cyclone being produced here on the other side of the map, and I like that one a lot. Cyclone, one of the best units in small numbers in StarCraft 2. Now, it does take 7 corrosive bios to get that single bunker down. Beautiful transfuse there, actually, as well, to just barely keep that Ravager alive for a little while longer. But it does look like Scarlett finally will be able to commit there, and she's going to be able to get rid of that aggression. Now, of course, SpeCial at this point in the game knows fully well that there is going to be a hatchery somewhere on his side of the map. Now, the Cyclones are great when it comes to early game pressure in particular, because in smaller numbers, they do an awful lot of damage. SpeCial is, however, also adding on a starport here, and he's making a tech lab. I like that one a lot, because if he finishes up that tech lab and he can produce himself, a single Banshee, he knows for a fact that this, Roach Ravager aggression that he's going up against will be absolutely shut down. And really, not that many SCVs have ended up falling here so far. I mean, on top of the fact that, of course, mules are dropping at this point in the game, the income is going to be significantly in favor here of the Terran player, just simply because he got a lot more SCVs than his opponent does. And on top of that, I mean, look at this. The cloaking field will go down. We see that continued Banshee production, and in game number 1, we most definitely are seeing an advantage right here for our blue Terran player. I mean, I guess that's what happens, right? When you get cheese versus cheese. Usually the player with mules will end up winning. Now you gotta be really careful here if you're the Zerg player, because of course the Cyclones will be absolutely able to shut this one down. 4 Ravagers, however, as well as a single Roach, they will be able to do quite a little bit of work and actually make that 5 Ravagers, because one came from the right-hand side of the map as well. Once again, it does still take 7 Corrosive Bios to comfortably nuke down that bunker, so this is going to be a rather interesting push. I wonder if Scarlett really wants to commit to this, because the Banshee is already out, and I mean, she's got to make a move here somehow, some way, but I don't think it's going to really be able to do all too much, and I think that Scarlett may just very well end up running from this engagement. Now, this is going to be a little bit of an expensive loss, because I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of these Ravagers do end up falling, but so far actually the Banshee is not quite getting the value of just yet, and you do have to be on top of that if you are the Terran player, because I mean, you have to continuously move command and, you know, attack move just like that. And while a couple of these units are already taking a bunch of damage, it's really nothing all too terrible for the pink Zerg player just yet. Now, Cyclones once again making their way towards that, I guess that would be the first expansion here of the Zerg. But meanwhile, on the other end of the map, a couple of Queens are going to be able to greet this Banshee in kind. And while there's currently no detection available, I'm pretty sure that there's a spore in the middle line. Yeah, there indeed. We do see one spore right there inside of the main base. Beautiful transfuse going down once again. And really, while this is going to be annoying, I feel like the Banshee has not nearly done as much damage as I anticipated it. I mean, I would have not been surprised if Scarlett decided to commit to just simply try and see if she could push up that ramp, but it turns out that indeed running away right there was the valid option. Now, the Queens are just simply waiting for this Banshee to lose its energy. It's still got energy for about another 15 or so seconds at this point in the game. Of course, Corrosive Bios can still hit it, but, you know, Special just a little bit too good for that. The Natural, however, does look like it's going to be able to finish up here as well, but with only a couple of seconds on this Banshee remaining. There we go. It's going to start taking a bunch of damage, and I think it may very well end up falling. No, just barely. It will not be the case. However, the Cyclones now came in as well. One of the Banshees does end up paying for that with its life, but the thing is, of course, Cyclones deal an awful lot of damage to indeed hatcheries and whatnot in the early part of the game, in particular like armored units. They are very good against those, and it does look like that's going to be more than enough to clean up that base. Now, one of the Cyclones also does end up getting killed. Second one looks like it will go down as well, but while this is all going on, right, and while there is some severe aggression here happening for the Terran player, I mean, I'm gonna skip to the other side of the map real quick because there is a solid amount of mining happening here. Special is just simply ramping up that production and just making a ton of units. And Scarlett, I mean, she's just barely scraping by, whereas Special is just simply expanding and starting, you know, really to go for that Terran macro machine. I mean, we've all seen it. Marine Siege Tank Bio with Medevac support. You're going to be able to drop your opponent for days, and look at the amount of bunkers, or rather barracks, that are now also being added on. We see that engineering bay go down. I mean, maybe there's going to be Spire play from his opponent, and it turns out that indeed Scarlett has put down, you know, the Spire to go for a bit of a desperation move, but I think that Special will be a little bit too good for that. I mean, even without, you know, any kind of missile turrets, he's still gonna have more than enough Marines to deal with this, and this is a beautiful play here by Special. Not overcommitting to the early game pressure and just simply making the most of his units. Now, I mean, he has lost a couple of units here and there in the process, but his macro has been on point. I mean, that is also, right there, that was a bit of a sloppy mistake, but the Marines have now arrived, and while they don't have Stimpack just yet, it's just about a couple of seconds from finishing. They're going to be able to deal an awful lot of damage even without it. Look at the amount of work that they are already doing, and you got to keep in mind, this is such a small commitment. I mean, Marines, they only cost minerals. They're going to be, you know, in plentiful numbers right here for the Terran player. And while Scarlett does look like she's still holding on here, and of course, she still does have a chance, there's simply going to be so many Terran units just rallying here across that I'm starting to get a little bit worried right here, of course. Special could potentially go for a drop right now as well, now that the Medevac has arrived, but look at the train. Look at the train of Terran units that are just simply making their way across. There's going to be tons of them on the other side of the map here in just about a minute or so from now, and even though there's 2 mutas coming in, I mean, we don't see any missile turrets just yet, so there could potentially be a saving grace right here for Scarlett. But even then, I mean, the 3rd hatchery goes down. I wonder if she's going to be capable of dealing with all of these units right here at the front. More and more Ravagers are now also being morphed in. Of course, that Siege Tank is in a brilliant position to really start shooting away right here at the units in the natural. And of course, with that Stimpack moving forward here as well, I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to be a little bit too much. Now, hold that thought though, because there are still a whole lot of Ravagers here available. But, you know, just simply judging by the amount of stuff that's available right now for the Terran, and just by seeing that production tab as well as the amount of supply that both players have, While it doesn't necessarily look like it's game over just yet, there is absolutely zero chance that SpeCial is gonna give up that huge advantage, and indeed, he does pick up game number 1. Interestingly enough, game number 2 is gonna be on Daybreak LE. Now, this is a very old map. I mean, if you played StarCraft 2 back in Heart of the Swarm, you'll recognize this one, right? Now, I know that they've played this one for quite a while over in Korea, which is where both Major and Scarlett are currently located. They've been practicing their ass off in Korea for quite a couple of months, and actually recently they both managed to qualify for the GSL Code S. So, you know, that's basically the highest level tournament in StarCraft 2, and only a handful of, like, non-Koreans have ever been able to qualify for that tournament. And Scarlett, I believe she actually just qualified for the 3rd season in a row. Regardless though, both of them are basically very good players, and I know that in Korea they still play some of the older maps in StarCraft 2 every now and then, and I think this may very well be the reason why both of them do still enjoy playing Daybreak LE. Regardless though, Scarlett this time around not going for anything fishy. It looks like the same thing is going on right now on the other end of the map. Just a very standard opener right here from both players here, for the time being at the very least. The first minute, nothing too crazy has gone down. I'm actually quite impressed though with the way that SpeCial was handling that last game macro-wise. I mean, I felt like he was microing a little bit sloppily. Sloppily, is that even a word? I don't even know if it is. But I felt like his micro wasn't quite as on point as we usually expect from a player of his caliber. But it didn't really matter because he was macroing so very well and he really wasn't missing a beat by producing stuff at home, that he was just simply capable of overpowering his opponent. Now Scarlett, of course, getting a little bit unlucky right there with that build order disadvantage that she did go for. I mean, if you're going for a proxy hatchery, you're basically putting all of your eggs in one basket, whereas the, you know, the proxy barracks are far less commitment heavy, I suppose. Just because with Zerg you kind of have to like kill your opponent if you want to obtain a victory, because Terran have this beautiful opponent, or this beautiful unit called the Mule, and oftentimes if you don't kill a Terran straight up, they're gonna be able to macro their way back into the match quite easily. Whereas of course with Terran, if you do a little bit of early game damage, even if it's just a handful of drones, you're already gonna be able to put them on the back foot quite heavily. Now Scarlett, of course, she's an absolute beast when it comes to macro style. I remember watching her play a couple of years ago, when no one was really focusing very much on creep spread, and she was one of the very first players that really started doing those kinds of, you know, heavy creep spread focused strategies a lot more. Also recently, she's been one of the very first players that started picking up +1 melee upgrades, I feel like, in Zerg vs Protoss, when a lot of people were still focused on the, you know, the Roach Ravager composition and the Roach Hydra styles. She already started incorporating a lot more Zerglings and then also Banelings later on into that play. And usually, like, Scarlett is a good player to sort of, like, judge the future strategies off, if that makes any sense. She seems to have a really good grasp of what is going to be happening in, say, about a couple of months from now in the metagame. So interestingly enough, I mean, she's actually leaving 2 drones in a gas geyser. It's pretty standard to either pull all of them off or maybe to leave one of them on. I usually, generally speaking, when I play, I do leave one of them on as well, but that's a slight little difference, and we'll see what she is planning to go for, because that 3rd hatchery is going down at a very standard timing. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, SpeCial opening up with a very old school, new school kind of build. This was a build that was around for the longest time a couple of years ago. You just simply go for that 1-1-1 kind of style, and you're going to be capable of going either for a medevac here to drop inside of your opponent's main, or you can just simply start, yeah, there we do indeed see that medevac going down, or you can just simply start building up a huge amount of stuff and just simply sit back for a little while. But I think that you know, Major is probably gonna pressure for at least a little bit with the Hellions that he is creating. But regardless, this is one of the most standard go-to strategies right now for the Zerg vs Terran matchup, because it basically leaves you safe against everything. Now this is the first little bit of a deviation right here. We do see that armory going down, so there's most definitely a strategy out there that will allow SpeCial to both drop these Marines as well as, for example, Hellbats inside of his opponent's mineral line. There are already a couple of Zerglings out, but they're not going to be able to cut it against, you know, of course, a bunch of Hellbats. Hellbats extremely good against light units, and this is starting to get a little bit worrisome here already. We see that Liberator follow up as well. There are going to be plenty of Queens out right now, however, but there indeed we do see that morph into the Hellbats, and actually losing this Overlord is a very big deal because it will be supply blocking the Zerg here for a little while. Nice spread out though on these Queens, already having 5 Queens out, which is rather unorthodox as well, and I wonder if this is going to be that's just simply a little bit too many Zerg units. I mean, look at the target firing right there on that medevac. That will not allow these units to retreat very nicely. On top of that, it will, of course, shut down the healing. But Scarlett's got to be very careful here. If she ends up losing these queens, that's going to be a very big deal. She's already reproducing one of them, but 16 Zerglings are right now on the production tab. You got to keep in mind that very few drones have ended up falling so far. So, you know, the less drones get killed here, the better it's going to be for the Zerg player. And SpeCial, actually, even though it looked like he was going to be capable of dealing an awful lot of damage here in the earlier part of the game, I mean, he's killed a bunch of queens, and he's killed a single drone right now. He ends up losing literally every single one of these units. I wonder if that was going to be worth it for him. Now, of course, we do see that follow-up with the Liberator. Liberator in the main base of the Zerg player is going to be able to start dealing some damage here, and I actually really do like this positioning. Lair eventually does go down, and I think that the Spore is going to be in range, so, you know, the Unsiege will be forced here. But regardless, that actually did more damage than all of the Hellbats and then the Marines combined. All things considered, quite interesting to see Scarlett play a bit of a different build. You gotta keep in mind, she left that drone into the gas for a little while longer. But then she also got a 5th queen out, and 5th queens, I mean, they are pretty uncommon. A lot of Zerg players right now play either 3 or 4 queens in the early game. So it's like a very subtle little difference, but it's interesting to see how it still is going to be more than enough to deal with it. Now, she's going to go ahead and scout here to figure out exactly what the Terran player is going for. That Raven does get scouted, and one of the more common strategies as of late for Terran is indeed to play this mech-based style. The last GSL Code S was indeed won by Gumiho against Su. Su is probably the best Zerg vs Terran player in the world, and people say that he is absolutely unbeatable when you try and, you know, play the Marine Marauder medevac based army against him, just because he's so very good at countering it. And ever since then, Gumiho in particular ended up experimenting quite a bit more with mech-based armies. So what I mean with that, of course, is going to be factory-based armies, you know, with a bunch of starport support as well. And I gotta be honest, I actually really do like this mech-based style that people are playing now. It's very different from what it used to be. Now, especially actually going for double reactors here. That is an interesting one as well. I've seen people play different kinds of styles here. Usually they go for like a siege tank, a siege tank heavy kind of composition. But at this point, I mean, he's playing sort of like a battle mech kind of composition here, and I actually do like that a lot. Now, we do see another factory going down here eventually, switching over with that tech lab from the starport, and he's going to be capable of getting at least, you know, some of these higher tier kind of units out, but this is still pretty interesting to see, because he's going to be capable of moving around with a rather aggressive mech force. And this is one of those new school things, right? For the longest time, people were just simply making mech, macroing up, turtling, sitting back, and, you know, making sure that they get mexed out on siege tank Thors, Hellbats, that kind of stuff with Liberator support, and maybe a bunch of Ravens as well. But this battle mech kind of style, I really like it. I think it's really cool, because Cyclones and Hellions, of course, are far more mobile than their siege tank counterparts. A lot of Hydras being produced here as well. That does mean that Scarlett knows precisely what is going on. The interesting thing is that Hydras for the longest time were, you know, seen as sort of like a useless unit in the Zerg vs Terran matchup. But lo and behold, of course, ever since the mech became a lot more popular, even though they're technically weak against the Hellion kind of style, with the Baneling support, you can easily clean this up, and Hydras are good against everything that is not called Siege Tank or Hellions. There's a ton of queens out right now as well, actually. A ton of them. Way more than I had anticipated. Now, this Liberator is still going to town, being a bit of a pain right there. But look at the amount of Terran units that are available here already. Beautiful play so far in this series by the blue Terran. But it looks like he's just not barely going to have enough, because while he's dealing a little bit of pressure here and there with the Liberators as well, it looks like the last of these Terran units may end up falling as well. And look at that. You know, those kills, they're actually very substantial, and I like this super heavy queen style as well. I mean, I've not seen this before. People are still trying to figure out what the best way to deal with Terran mech is. I mean, the Marine Marauder medevac style, it is very much so figured out from both sides of the matchup, right? But this kind of strategy, it is very uncommon and something that we don't see a lot of. Well, we see it a lot nowadays, and actually, just that Liberator just barely does not end up getting killed there, and 13 kills on that one already. Anyway, like, this is still a style that people are trying to figure out how to counter most efficiently, and I wonder if queens are going to be the one thing to go for. Anyway, we do now also see the +2/+2 being researched. Of course, we see that infestation pit go down, so there's an option right here to go for Swarm Host, which was actually one of the units that we saw Zerg players play for quite a long time. But long story short, There's gonna be a lot of mechanical units out right now, and look at this, right? I like this one a lot. This is also another new school kind of thing for Terran mech, to go for medevacs. Now, of course, medevac, generally speaking, are used to heal up the biological units, but of course, the second use is to go ahead and drop and pick up units as well. And if you can manage to drop a bunch of Thors on your opponent, and indeed, by the way, we do see those swarm hosts go down in this match here as well. If you can drop a bunch of Thors or siege tanks on your opponent's army, or for example, drop a whole lot of Hellbats right on top of the Hydras, you can do an awful lot of damage, and this is one of the most recent developments in the Zerg vs Terran matchup as well. So this is cool. I have no idea how it's gonna play out. Now we do of course see SpeCial is simply sitting back and making a nice macro-based army, but look at this. There's gonna be some Hellbat drop shenanigans. I've seen Gumiho do a lot of Thor drops, and he's actually been really good at playing against the Swarm Host style. Generally speaking, Swarm Hosts are considered to be the counter against mech. However, if you chase them down with medevacs, it turns out that Thors with medevacs can actually easily outfly, you know, the Swarm Host shenanigans. And I wonder how this is gonna play out right here. Anyway, we do see a couple of these Hellions trying to make their way in. I'm gonna assume here that Scarlett thinks that this is gonna be maybe a siege tank drop or maybe some Hellions, but it's actually gonna be some Hellbats here instead. I think he's gonna try and head for this mineral line here instead. Now a couple of the Hellions now also are making their way towards the central part of this map, and there's actually not all too many units out. Of course, these Locusts are gonna be able to deal quite a bit of damage though. They're shutting down this Terran's production, which is a very annoying thing to deal with, but there's plenty of Hydras to deal up the or deal with the aggression right here. But at the same time, a massive drop is going down inside of the main of the Zerg. Of course, these siege tank, if they indeed siege up in a proper position, I think that is the last that she wrote right here for that hive. That hive will not finish anytime soon, and I love this style. It is so very cool. More and more Hellions and Hellbats are being dropped right now on the other side of the map as well, and while I think there may very well be just barely enough to hold on here. Hold that thought, actually. Ooh, a huge amount of units get picked off by those Hydras. I was assuming that hive was already dead. I mean, judging by the amount of siege tank there, they should have done a lot of damage to try and deal with that. At the same time, though, another drop is going down here in the top left-hand side of the map. But I mean, that actually was such a cool play, but it got shut down really easily by Scarlett. I did not anticipate that happening whatsoever. I mean, I think that the Queens may have gone in to transfuse that hive up, and it turns out that it was going to be enough. Such a cool game right here. Such a cute style. I love this. This is so sick to see. I don't really know exactly how this is gonna play out at all, but I gotta say, I'm really impressed with the way that Scarlett is handling a very unorthodox kind of style. Now, SpeCial losing a bunch of units here and there. He's trying to harass basically at like 16 different angles at once, and while there are a bunch of siege tanks here ready to try and do a bunch of damage, and you know, a whole lot of drones are falling here throughout the majority of this game. I mean, already 34 of them ended up going down. You don't really need that many drones anymore at this point in the game, right? I mean, you can just easily remake them. Usually the drone harass, it's a great thing in the earlier part of the game when like timing attacks are still a very important thing. But at this point, I mean, Scarlett can build back up to 80 workers, no problem. Spire does go down there pretty late. It's not going to be a quick Brute Lord kind of style. I think the hive was primarily made right now to start up the +3 upgrades as well as the adrenal glands research. We see continued harass right now though with those Hydras, and this is such a cool style. I mean, Hydra Swarm Host Baneling against Terran mech. Are you kidding me? If you would have told me that a year ago, I would have never believed it. But if we see some, you know, for example, Viper support or like, you know, Brute Lords and Greatest Spires and all that, and that is exactly what we got in this game. Second Spire now also being produced here. This is kind of a cool way of dealing with it, because of course Terran mech is extremely immobile. You need to make sure that Terran mech does not max out if you are the Zerg player. Likewise, of course, SpeCial is trying his very best to make as many units as he can. He's trying to harass his opponent to the best of his abilities, just simply running in with these Hellions, doing a bunch of harass here and there. But these Swarmers are going to town, and they are shutting down a ton of this production here for the blue player. I'm a little worried here though. Scarlett being caught off guard. Losing a whole lot of these Swarmers. Now, it's not going to be nearly as bad as I had anticipated right there, but the first 2 SCVs, I think, in this game... No, actually, it's been 6 at this point. The first bunch of SCVs, though, have finally gone down, and I think that this will mostly come down to one massive engagement. I gotta say though, I do like this position right now for Scarlett. She's giving away a lot of these units, but the transfuse are absolutely spot on. Swarmos are joining this engagement right now as well. The Locusts are closing in on those siege tanks, and the damage per second of Locusts is absolutely incredible. This is very much so a glass cannon composition for the Zerg player right here. Scarlett is gonna be able to deal a lot of damage. She's gonna be able to roll forward right here. The question is there going to be enough? No fighting right now on that planetary fortress. That does mean, of course, that there's not gonna be added functionality right here to that engagement from the Terran player. And while a lot of these units will end up getting killed, I think that indeed Scarlett will be forced to back up here and wait for reinforcing units to arrive. Once again though, the next swarm of Locust is ready to start fighting against this shenanigans. I think that she's looking to try and take down that planetary fortress in the center of the map. Planetary fortress, of course, a very important building right now for the Terran player to hold. If she manages to kill this, that is a huge deal there indeed. We do see that the middle position of this map gets broken, and because of that, SpeCial is gonna be forced to GG out of this one, and game number 2 gets picked up by Scarlett in a very, very nice game. I like that one a ton. Well, there we have it. The score has been evened up. Spawning in the bottom left corner of Newkirk Precinct TE, we have none other than the pink Zerg, known by the nickname of Scarlett. And her opponent, spawning in the bottom right corner, and actually this is another one of these old maps. I actually didn't realize it because I played this map for like 2 years. We have none other than SpeCial. This map was around for a very, very long time. Once again, we do see a very early SCV moving across the map here. A little bit interesting. I actually know that the GSL Code S, right? The tournament that I was talking about earlier still does run a bit of a different map pool than the ladder maps. Just because a lot of the Korean players are not a big fan of the ladder maps. So generally speaking, they're going for a little bit more of a balanced version. Of course, Daybreak is one of the most, like, quote-unquote standard macro maps, and so is Newkirk, and I think that is the reason why they are still practicing on these. Regardless, once more, we see SpeCial opening up extremely aggressive. He is planning to close out this game. He does not want to wait, you know, and really give his opponent a huge amount of time to try and respond to this. And the thing is, I highly doubt that Scarlett is... Well, I was gonna say, I highly doubt that Scarlett is gonna scout this, but usually, right, when a map is around for this long of a time, and you play against the same players over and over and over again, you may have a good understanding of exactly what is going on, and this Overlord is being sent in the perfect position to scout these 2 incoming barracks. On top of that, I want to point out that Scarlett went for a really quick extractor as well as a spawning pool, so while it does look like SpeCial is planning to get aggressive with Reapers here in the earlier stages of the game, and once again, actually, he's going for that Marine play. I'm wondering here if it's not just simply going to be hard countered, because there's already so very much that has been told right here by that Overlord. We'll be able to see a bunker go down once again on the low ground. A couple of drones are now also being pulled. I actually do like this play a lot, though, from SpeCial. I mean, it's a small commitment. He's going to be capable of following this up with a factory at home. And while he's most definitely planning to get aggressive here, he must recognize right now that this is not going to work in the slightest. And I would just simply like to see him, you know, return back home and maybe start up a factory in the meantime here on the other side of the map as well. Now, a couple of drones are going to continue helping out these Zerglings as well. But Zergling speed, I mean, it's already being researched. All of the drones have been pulled out of the gas, guys. So the first queen is now also out, and I mean, while these Marines may be able to nibble away at a couple of these drones, I mean, the SCVs that built these barracks have indeed already gone down, so no more chances right now of bunkers going up, and I think that this is going to be more than enough to clean up all of this aggression. Now, I do like this. I mean, SpeCial knows that he's been countered here, but he's still gonna get at least a little bit of value right there by killing, you know, the Overlord right there with the high ground vision that these barracks do provide. We do indeed see that factory go down, and on top of that, we see also a command center going down. I actually really do like this build. I mean, SpeCial, basically what he's doing, right, and we see a little bit more skirmishing going around right here, but basically what he's doing, he's trying to force his opponent to overreact, right? He's going for that double, like, barracks proxy, and usually Zerg players will go, like, full on into 100% defensive mode. They will start up making a ton of defense. Usually they will not continue playing, actually, oh, hold that thought, because there's a bit of a surround right here on these Marines right now by these Zerglings. Nice little play right there by Scarlett, but usually Zerg players will not be able to deal with that very easily unless they start making non-stop units. That Scarlett is a little bit too good for that shenanigans, so she will not be caught off guard with that, but still, I think a weaker Zerg player may very well just go full on into defense and maybe even throw up a Baneling's Nest. However, that reactor ends up getting killed. And indeed, the Zerglings will be able to flood inside of the main right here of the Terran player. And while this may have seemed a little bit preemptive, generally speaking, right, this is going to be extremely difficult to follow up. I mean, look at this. That second command center was just about to finish up. And of course, Scarlett would have been able to kill that SCV that was building that. And on top of that, Scarlett was just simply making a ton of drones meanwhile at home. And this economy would be slowed down a ton. And while it does seem a little bit preemptive, right, SpeCial could have most definitely stuck around for a little while longer. If you're playing a series, sometimes it's better to just simply GG out and jump into the next one, just so you're not going to be morally defeated. It is going to be match point right here for our pink Zerg player. We're spawning here on Echo LE, and in the bottom right corner we have none other than SpeCial, and of course, his opponent, as you may have already guessed, we have none other than Scarlett herself. Now, of course, it does mean that Scarlett has got a little bit of wiggle room. She's gonna be capable of going for an aggressive build here if she wants to go for one. I mean, she can lose one game right here, right? And if she can potentially cheese out her opponent, there's a chance she can obtain the victory right here, right now. And I actually do like this move. I mean, Scarlett going for a drone really early on. I don't know if she's gonna plan on proxying a hatchery, but I wouldn't be all too surprised by this either. Now, of course, Echo LE, another one of these really old maps. I think that she may be planning to build up a hatchery. Maybe like right over here, or maybe even at the third base location right here of the Terran player, because the drone minerals, I mean, they're lining up perfectly right here. We're going all the way up to 17 drones, but I think that Scarlett is looking to cheese out her opponent here in what could potentially be the final match of this series. Now, interestingly enough, and SpeCial once again does it, I like this a lot. Interestingly enough, he goes for that wall off at the top of the natural, rather than walling off here at the top of the ramp of the main base. And this is going to be interesting to see, because basically, if Scarlett wants to break into this, she's probably going to have to fight 2 waves of walls, if that makes any sense. There's going to be quite a lot of units here available. Now, of course, there's still the option right now as well for SpeCial. If he wants to go, yeah, there indeed, we do see that third barracks go down. I was going to say there's an option here that he can go for that triple Marine harass, or, of course, the triple Reaper play as well. And we'll see if that's going to be the case. There indeed, we do once again see a Reaper being built. And I mean, this looks awfully similar to game number 1, where we saw some cheese versus cheese. Looks like SpeCial is picking the correct build orders for the correct map, because he is gonna be capable of starting up an awful lot of production here already. And I mean, Scarlett, once again, she's putting all of her eggs in one basket. I mean, she's got that spawning pool finishing up, and once again, it's gonna be a Roach Warren play here really early on into the game. I wonder if it is going to be enough. I mean, we saw that went down in the first match, right? And I think that Scarlett must be pretty unhappy here by judging the timing right there of that first Reaper. She'll be able to find out shortly that it is going to be a little bit more than she was bargaining for. Because look at the amount of production here that will be available right now for the Terran player. And actually, look at this. Immediate cancel right there by Scarlett. Scarlett knows what's going on. She's going to be able to start droning up once again. And I think that she may very well just make a roach or 2 here at home and try and deal with the aggression that way. I mean, Ravagers are absolutely incredible to defend against this. But the thing is, of course, that she's not going to be able to continue onward with this aggression very easily. She may still make a couple of roaches right here. Yeah, there indeed we do see the roaches go down. She's going to be able to at least pressure her opponent with them and maybe go for, you know, a kill on the depot or 2. But with that bunker going up here already, SpeCial is reading her like a book. I mean, look at that. Absolutely shutting this one down. And once again, we do see some cute micro there. One of the Reapers does end up falling here. Quite surprised that SpeCial once again ends up losing more units than he absolutely needs to. While Scarlett still does have a solid amount of economy though. And of course, SpeCial does not quite have the natural expansion here ready to go just yet. So that's a rather big deal as well. Bunker, not quite finished up just yet. I would love to actually see that SCV that was meant to build up the command center right here, finish up the bunker here as well. And actually, there's quite a lot of units here available right now for the Zerg player. Hitting that little corner right there, that triangle, I suppose, the point where the 3 buildings do meet. You're going to be able to damage all 3 of them at once with just a single corrosive bio, which is a very big deal. Reapers, however, are now going for the counter-attack aggression. Of course, that, you know, supply depot is going to end up taking a lot of damage here as well. And Scarlett, she's actually going to be able to continue onwards with this aggression. I'm quite surprised here that SpeCial has decided to go for the counter-attack. There's going to be a single roach available. 2 more are now also just about to morph in, or actually, I think that's a single one and an overlord Lord, as well as, of course, that Queen. But still, these Reapers are going to be able to do quite a little bit of work. Just getting a handful of drones here would already be more than enough. There we do indeed see a couple of them already falling, which is very nice. I mean, killing a drone here is a very big deal. Zerg is not going to be able to remake them here for quite a little while longer. And remember, we need 7 corrosive bios to try and nuke down that bunker. Queen's, of course, trying to join in here as well. One Queen is running awfully low. I think there is going to be a transfuse available. However, on the second one, indeed, she will be kept alive here for a little while longer. But with that Overlord going down, I'm starting to get a little bit worried here for Scarlett. I mean, Scarlett has got the supply upper hand, right? And that is all fine and dandy. And while she is also, like, sort of killing her opponent from the inside out, there's gonna be a siege tank out right now. And, of course, once that second barrier, or the second, what's it called? The second command center goes down, I'm starting to worry here that this may be a little bit too tricky to kill her opponent with. I mean, look at the amount of stuff that's available already. A lot more units are now also being produced. Now, we see that continue to rest, right? And she's not going to be able to break through this for at least a little while longer. The question is, what exactly could the follow-up here be for Scarlett? Yeah, indeed, she's going to go for an hatchery, and I think that is the correct choice. I mean, you got to play out this game one way or another. I highly doubt that she's assuming she's going to be able to break her opponent right there against that siege tank play. Maybe kill another, you know, another SCV or two, but once that reactor comes down right here on that starport, and, you know, once again, we see that Banshee play, I don't think she must know right now that she's not going to be able to continue onward with this aggression for very much longer. And I mean, a second siege tank is just about to join this party as well. Even the bunker ends up getting salvaged because SpeCial recognizes that he doesn't need it anymore. And while well, actually, that's a nice pickup. 3 bios will end up killing that siege tank. I think there's still going to be more than enough Terran to try and deal with this. And actually, he's actually going for a Raven. I like that one a lot, actually. Pretty interesting move, but the Raven does make this a little bit easier because you can use that easily for some counter-attack aggression as well, because the Zerg is going to have a hard time to try and deal with these auto turrets. And actually, Scarlett is just simply droning up. I like this one a lot. I would love to see another command center go down right now for SpeCial. I feel like he's making the assumption that Zerg is committing to this way more than she actually is. I mean, look at this. There are some more, like, roaches going down, and that's all fine and dandy, but Scarlett is really not making, like, a ton of them. I mean, she's just simply making some units here to defend against this, while really building up that count of defensive units. Now, there's also a Spore Crawler going down, so she recognizes that there's a chance that there is, of course, going to be a Banshee out. And on top of that, of course, this Raven will also be able to provide that vision right here that's needed to clean up all of the creep here in the natural. But I think that having a second command center ready to go is going to be important, because at this point, I mean, we're getting to the point where the main base is starting to look really skinny. I mean, the longer that this goes on, the more difficult it is going to be for the Terran player to break out of, because Zerg is going to be capable of mining from that natural here, and already a couple of drones are indeed making their way to start mining those juicy, fresh mineral patches. The creep is spread literally everywhere so far, right? And I mean, SpeCial is still desperately trying to break out of his own base. Not quite the situation that you want to be in if you are the Zerg player or the Terran player right now. Zerg is just continuing, you know, to rain those corrosive biles, and it looks like the Spore Crawler is finally being uprooted right now as well. But I think that with this Raven, providing, of course, that cloaking vision, she's going to be capable, or he's going to be capable, rather, of cleaning up every single one of these tumors. And I think that shortly we can expect the command center to go down there. Indeed, we do see that command center being built right now here on the bottom right-hand side of the map. A lot of siege tanks available right now. Ooh, that's a risky siege up. That is a risky siege up. I mean, you can do a lot of damage with that if the Ravagers walk into it, but 3 bios will be able to take out all of them. You do, of course, need some high ground vision right here, and of course, SpeCial knows that there's not going to be an Overlord out at this point in the game anymore at this side of the map, or at least one of them just finished up right here, of course, right when I say that. But regardless, I think that the Zerg is going to be forced to move away for the time being, and indeed, Scarlett is just simply building up more and more and more drones. All things considered, actually, I think we can still call this one an advantage right now for Scarlett. I think that the amount of creep spread that she did right here really put her in an advantage, interestingly enough, because it's usually not the thing that you think about when you're thinking of Zerg advantages, but simply just spreading the creep here everywhere really, like, delays the counterattacks, but also forces the Terran to expand super late. I mean, there's still a tumor right there that's going to take quite a bit of time to dissipate too. That expansion that is currently being built is not going to finish up for a little while longer, and once again, this Raven will be forced to return homewards just to try and pick up this aggression, or, you know, a scan will be forced. That base will not be able to land. That base will not be able to land. And actually, if all of the reinforcing units are now also moving across, I'm starting to get a little bit worried right here for our blue Terran. Well, he's finally, you know, come even once again with the supply count. I'm not all too happy for this situation for him to be in right now, because he's not going to be able to start mining from this for a little while longer. Yeah, actually forced to misplace that command center or start a little bit of long distance mining, but hold that thought though, because there's a huge amount of Marines available right now, stimming forward, trying to do all that damage, and actually a ton of damage was dealt there, even without the siege tanks in that engagement. The question is there going to be enough right now for Scarlett to hold on here? I mean, look at the sheer amount of Terran stuff that's available. This is primarily produced off of a single base, right? And while there is a natural going down and one of the siege tank does end up getting killed here as well, I mean, one stim to win here is going to be great. I mean, there's going to be a lot of auto turrets available right now as well. I think that she plans on using, or he plans on using those in this engagement right here as well. And I mean, that hatchery taking so much damage in just a matter of seconds. Of course, SpeCial knows that the main base of the Zerg is going to be completely mined out here right around the 10-minute mark. And while there are a lot of Zerg units available right now, I don't think it's going to be quite enough. And SpeCial just manages to, you know, overpower his opponent with a force, you know, that Scarlett was just simply not able to deal with. I mean, she was stuck on that, like, sort of like Road Ravager kind of composition, not really capable of switching into Zerging speed, not really capable of switching into, you know, of course, the Banelings as well. And all things considered, I think that that was a really smart play right there by SpeCial, just simply being patient. I actually thought he would make that command center much faster, but it turns out that he knew precisely what he was doing, and he ended up obtaining the victory right here, evening up the score, and that means that we're jumping into the final match. Well, I mean, this is an old map. This is a very old map. I think they are just goofing around with the map picks right here. I think they must have been allowed to pick whatever map they wanted, because this is Coda LE. I have not seen this map in a very long time. Of course, once again, it's one of the best maps that have ever come out in StarCraft 2, at the very least at the time when it was first released. This was one of the best maps that was ever made, but I don't really know exactly how it would play it out in modern Zerg vs Terran. Regardless though, right here on the right hand side of the map, playing in blue and playing a beautiful series so far, we have none other than SpeCial. And his opponent, spawning in a cross position, playing with the pink drones, we have none other than Scarlett. Now, so far though, this has been a very back and forth kind of series, but I do feel like Scarlett has been playing, you know, the solid games. I mean, I feel like the two losses that she had can mostly be traced back, and I know this is not entirely fair to say, but it can be, you know, traced back right here to just simply build order disadvantages, right? The two games where she went for the Proxy hatchery, which is a very powerful build in some scenarios, those are also the games that she ended up losing just because her opponent happened to go for some really aggressive play. But the thing is, Major has been doing this build over and over and over again, right? I like this a lot. I mean, this is both offensive as well as defensive, if that makes any sense. He's going to be capable of countering any kind of proxy hatcheries while also pressuring his opponent. And while it does look like this time around he's going to go for the Reaper variant, which I actually don't mind at all either, because this has become one of the stronger builds as well. If your micro is on point, you can indeed deal a lot of damage with Reapers. I do like the way that he's approaching this, because he's both safe against a lot of the early game pressure while also dealing damage, you know, to his opponent with the potential units that he's got. Now, this time around for Scarlett, however, we did see a very quick Zerging speed as well. Hatchery going down much later, opening up with a pool first here rather than that hatchery, so these Zerglings are going to be able to make their way across the map reasonably early on. Very shortly, however, that Overlord will figure out exactly what is going on, and by scouting the double barracks here, I think she will be fully aware of the fact that there is going to be some heavy Reaper play coming her way once again, and there indeed she does get the verification that there is a second barracks down. That means that somewhere on this map there's a third one as well, and of course with the run by here, she is still going to be capable of potentially picking up the command center, or rather the SUV that's building the command center here in just a second. Queen coming out just in the nick of time right there, brilliantly timed. Scarlett actually continuing onwards right now with the droning. Quite a ballsy little move, right? Of course, because one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that Truman needs to leave. If he wants to... Ooh, that is a tricky one. If you start droning right now, it does mean that you're going to have much less units here once these Reapers started grouping up. And we all know the strength of Reapers, in particular in bigger numbers. Beautiful grenade right there by SpeCial. I mean, really like slowing down the advancement right here of this Zerg force. And So far, I mean, we see 3 Reapers in production continuously. He's going to be capable of re-rallying towards these units that he's got right now as well. Gotta be very careful, though. You don't want to lose these. What a great bunch of zoning right there by Scarlett. I mean, Major was desperately trying to run these Reapers down that low ground, but look at that play right there. Scarlett blocking her opponent from really, like, retreating out of the main base, and that almost, like, entirely shuts down this build. If you lose the first couple of Reapers, sure, you may continue onwards for a little while longer, and sure, you can start up that command center, but it's going to be much more difficult to continue the pressure right here as well, because Zerg is going to be at your front door. Now, of course, this doesn't look like a full wall off, but it actually is. There's no gap right there between these 2 barracks. Somehow, some way, Zerglings can't fit through that. Don't ask me how that works. I don't really know. It looks like they should perfectly fit through that, but still, the Zerglings are going to be able to nibble away at these supply depots. But of course, now that they got their wings, they're going to be capable of running away from these Reapers with relative ease. We now do also see an evolution chamber being added on, and I don't think it's going to be for any kind of drop play. I mean, there is a chance that that could be happening right here. Maybe actually she is planning to go ahead and drop her opponent, but still, we do see that +1 carapace go down. A lot of additional queens now also being added on her right now instead of that 3rd base, which I like a lot. Already, we do see 4 queens at this point, and once again, we see that 5th queen being added on. So rather than, you know, building that economy, she's sort of like, you know, like, she's sort of like securing the defensive position here instead, which I actually do like a lot. I mean, if there's going to be a Banshee follow-up or a Hellion follow-up or a Cyclone follow-up, she's going to be fine. And of course, one of the benefits of having queens out as well over, you know, ground units is that they don't cost any larva. They don't cost any gas either. So for that very reason, you can save yourself some more larva and therefore start up more and more drones. At the same time, though, SpeCial, he's going to be capable of transitioning once again right here as well. He's going for those double Hellion plays, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a starport follow-up here very shortly. He does indeed have the double gas mining, of course, because he does need that if he wants to play the Reaper shenanigans, but he is going to be capable of starting up some additional, you know, some additional gas production here in just a little bit from those natural assimilators as well. The Reapers, however, still trying to do whatever damage they can. Interestingly enough, not going after the tumors just yet, but they do end up getting cancelled there regardless. We do it continuously. This is actually kind of interesting. Usually we see players switch into the double reactor as well as a tech lab at this point in the game, but SpeCial is actually just simply continuing onwards right now with more and more Reaper production. I wonder what his plan is going to be. We don't really see a transition out of this, so it almost looks like this. It almost looks like it to me like he is just simply gonna commit to a ton of Reapers. I wonder. I think this may very well be a wow, is this gonna be a Reaper Hellbat push? I mean, judging by that armory, I'm almost thinking that that is going to be the case. I mean, there is no starport out at this point in the game. I think it should technically work quite well against this Zergling Queen-heavy kind of composition. But Scarlett, I mean, she's mining a solid amount of resources. She's keeping track of exactly what's going on. And actually, the boys are being pulled. The SUVs from the natural are going to be joining this engagement as well. And so far, this is not... Well, no, actually... I don't know if that SCV... No, I don't actually think that that was scouted right there. Scarlett is starting up a whole lot of Banes. She is going to need that, but the boys are pulled. That means the SpeCial is essentially pushing all in right here. He is planning to close out this game as early as he possibly can, but I think that that Baneling nest is at a very good timing because, of course, the Banelings are going to be countering literally every single unit right here that the Terran player has got. Of course, with some good micro, though, Major still does have a chance right here to clean literally every single one of these units up. Brilliant mines as well, lowering the HP for at least a little bit. Of course, these SCVs are going to be capable of soaking some of the damage, but more importantly, they're going to be able to eat some of those Banelings. They're going to be able to repair some of these units as well, but I think that with only 1 or 2 remaining, a handful of them do end up falling there. 16 SCVs ended up getting killed, and I don't think that that was quite enough just yet. Look at the continued amount of queen production here for Scarlett. It's really paying off in this series. Every single game where she made more than 4 queens, more than the recommended standard, she has been able to use them to great effectiveness. I mean, without the queens, there's no chance that she would have been able to kill this, but 18 SCVs were sacrificed here. I mean, SpeCial, I mean, he's going for a scan. He's trying to do whatever damage he can, but there's very little that he's going to be able to achieve at this point. 55 drones versus 23. Baneling speed now also done, of course. That also increases the HP right here of those Banes, making them a little bit stronger. Zerglings trying their best to surround all of those Reapers. The Reapers will be able to jump into the main as well to continue that harass for a little while longer. But the question is, does it really matter? I mean, that 3rd base is down. SpeCial scans it, and Scarlett realizes that she has indeed obtained the victory in this best of 5 series in 3-2 fashion. I hope you enjoyed watching this very entertaining series. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. And other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I'll see you in the next one.